Gravity is the middle of Season 5, so it seems a little strange that we're inside a Vulcan cave, but we soon learn as the young Vulcan is called Tuvok. He's been met by a Vulcan wise man who runs this place. It's not an easy job. You don't get very decent service when your address is a cave. Well, Master Flintstone says that Tuvok doesn't have to stay, but it's not really much of a choice, is it? He can't go back home, he can't go back to school, so basically you can leave and wander the planet as a beggar, or do these lessons. Those aren't exactly balanced terms. The Master explains that emotions are a powerful tool, but only if that tool is controlled. Anyone who has seen a cartoon character with a jackhammer knows what he means. After the titles, we're on some scrubland alien planet as a Mad Max-attired woman goes about her business of luring out giant spiders so she can stab, kill, and eventually eat them. But the hunt is interrupted by a portal opening in the sky, and a crashing Voyager shuttle comes out. Oh, sorry to be redundant calling it a crashing Voyager shuttle. She slips inside the shuttle and starts picking things over, but then salvage is probably a necessity for survival on this planet. I mean, it's not like she's pulling a gun and robbing them.
Pizza!
This? Listen, I really need this.
Pizza unitsa!
Okay.
Okay, now I feel like I'm enabling her. After robbing Paris, she runs off, but she's pursued by another alien. You know the neighborhood is bad when robbers get mugged. The alien is joined by a bunch of others, and they would have killed her if Tuvok hadn't intervened. And after the ass-whooping and the nerve-pinching, we learn the scavenger is Nos. She's played by Lori Petty. She'd been a bigger name earlier in the 90s before Tank Girl caused her to, well, tank a little bit. But it's not like she turned into a has-been or anything. I'm just saying that this is not a case of Dwayne Johnson's stunt casting that she's here. Her performance in this work comes down to personal interpretation. I'll tell you up front, I think that it's perfectly fine, but I have heard a lot of people who find it to be grating. I can't quibble with them. I know I flip that script whenever it comes to Dr. Pulaski on Season 2 TNG. Tuvok brings her back to their shuttle, where Paris is nursing a small grudge over what happened. To be fair, having a gun shoved in your face is not a way to win people over. He does start to treat her injuries, though, and says that they can't get a signal out. It keeps getting bounced back.
It looks like we fell into some kind of gravity well.
Considering you're on a planet, I'd say that's a pretty safe bet. There's an entire solar system inside a pocket of subspace, and a lot of them are from the species that's hostile, which we can tell because they're coming this way in numbers. Tuvok decides to abandon the shuttle to them and go to wherever Nos has been staying. A pretty impressive-looking ship compared to their cargo van shuttle. It can't exactly fly. The engine remains are a couple kilometers away, and it probably wouldn't be easy to put those back together again now. Instead, Paris busies himself with fixing the doctor's mobile emitter, much to Nos's terror, having a man appear out of nowhere. Luckily, something finally goes their way here. While the personal universal translators aren't working, the doctor's integrated one works fine, and he's able to explain his presence before she starts blasting holes in things. He's also able to say she's been here for 14 seasons. That is impressive. I mean, it's not a Simpsons level impressive, but certainly respectable. By a third of the way through the episode, Paris is trying in vain to hunt spiders with Nos, who has picked up some English talking to them. It's no doubt invaluable to have someone who can speak all the languages on this planet, plus have medical knowledge to help them survive. Damn lucky they got the doctor back online. So Tuvok tells him, "We're taking you offline." With no knowledge of what's to come and limited resources, they're going to need to conserve his mobile emitter's power. Not to mention, they might need to use that power in an emergency. So while Paris tries to see to that, Tuvok and Nos make spider stew or whatever. It's hard to tell. Shame there's no oil for frying it, though. Everybody would get a drumstick then. Nos asks about Tuvok's life on Voyager, and we can see that she has a blossoming interest in the man. And given the fandom around Spock, it's no surprise that a Vulcan can have that effect. Especially when Tom talks about how much he misses Torres after dinner that night, recounting the courtship we've watched recently. Although probably without the alien possession and insane hologram trying to murder her the moment they made it official. That'd just complicate this tale. Tuvok helps her clean up after dinner, which she presumes is a reason to be with her because of his feelings for her, rather than because it needs doing and I am not an asshole. Paris points out her affection to Tuvok, who notes that he is married. This does not stop Tom, although to be fair, I'll let him present his case.
Your wife is 50,000 light years away, in a different layer of space. The chances of you ever seeing her again are practically non-existent.
Therefore, you should give up now, when we've only been here a couple of weeks at most. A relationship has not improved Paris's faithfulness since season 1, it seems. In fact, I'm starting to suspect the next time Torres gets stuck in traffic, he's going to be like, well, you do have to move on. He soon follows Tuvok out to apologize for suggesting he abandoned his wife for Nos.
Listen, what I said in there about your wife, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. This is home now. You might as well accept it and try to find as much happiness as you can.
Wow, an apology that still doubles down on a thing you're apologizing for. That's very lawyerly.
Tom's defense is that Tuvok clearly looks at Nos like someone with feelings for her, and he should just admit the truth and enjoy the fact that he's got a potential girlfriend. In the flashback, Tuvok is lamenting being born Vulcan and having to go through all this crap just because he has feelings. At the Master's prompting, Tuvok explains the reason that he was sent here. He's been infatuated with an alien girl at his school, who, it should be noted, is not interested in him. The Master says it's because she's interested in another student, prompting Tuvok to want to challenge this guy for her affection. Because, that's how romance works. I got my wife defeating my rival in a best-of-3 pie-eating contest. The Master makes the point that love is a very dangerous emotion, because it has the potential to lead to shame, jealousy, and, worst of all, having to watch The Bachelor and pretend that it's quality television. On Voyager, we learn that time is traveling at different rates in their little pocket than it is in normal space, because Voyager only had an hour pass, while weeks have gone by for them. Well, they almost find out firsthand, because this swirling amber cloud tries to swallow them, and Voyager barely texts a solution to escape. At least now they can guess what happened to their shuttle. It disappeared into that galactic sphincter. Well, things are about to get interesting. Well, not really, but that's the phrase for these situations. The same species that attacked Nos has arrived and grabbed Voyager with a tractor beam, as a preventative measure to stop them from getting pulled down the well. Well, this surefine Klingon here is from Galactic Road Cruise. He's here to fill in this pothole tomorrow, regardless of who might still be down there. Better that than to allow more to be lost, is their reasoning. Although that's fairly easily reasoning to have if you're on the side that gets to go on living. So, we've got a ticking clock. Time to go all out. This doesn't call for our fancy probe, or even our fancy schmancy probe. It's time for our fancy schmancy, just a hint of technomancy probe that can do whatever is needed to solve the conundrum. That one. There's a reason we've been saving it. Well, it comes back with good news. Tom and Tuvok are alive. And also comes back with bad news. Even without surefine Klingons, this place would collapse anyway, and everybody inside would die. Unless they complete this rescue, of course. And they're going to have to hurry on it. Now that they've figured out the massive difference in the rates of time passing, we're not going to have time for the usual meeting and stuff. Years will pass just during the reading of the minutes. Down below, Paris returns with a badly injured Tuvok. Luckily, though, we got physician in a can. He treats him, but resources are limited, so Nos cares for him later, in private. Medically, I mean. I don't mean taking care of that booty. But she does eventually start making out with him, which Tuvok puts a stop to quickly. He doesn't reciprocate her feelings, he says. He just respects and appreciates her.
Logic! I hate logic!
This reminds me of my own marriage a bit. Up on Voyager, they figured out how to use the probe as a relay to beam the survivors up and to send down a message to let them know it's coming. But there's a snag. For the first time in the history of the universe, a road crew is ready to get the job done ahead of schedule.
We need at least another 2 hours to make a rescue attempt.
Sorry.
Look at this. Even their ships look like surefine Klingon stuff.
How long until they seal the rift?
Approximately 30 minutes.
Then that's all we've got.
Yes, we are fully prepared to not force the issue in order to save our people. Their lives are not worth offending these aliens by slightly delaying their timetable. The next morning, Paris interrupts Tuvok's meditation because Nos is talking about leaving. and Paris is outraged that Tuvok won't express his feelings for Nos simply because that would be contra to who he is as a person and would be cheating on his wife. There's a problem here, and Paris thinks the solution is a dick.
Adultery.
No! But the answer is not adultery. The answer is never adultery.
Tuvok recounts the infatuation that led to his time with the Vulcan master, prompting Tom to say, it's too bad that he learned to repress his emotions. But before we get into that, the message comes through. The aliens are already starting to close the sinkhole. It'll be done in 29 minutes, Seven says. So Janeway sends a message that says they're going to be beamed out in exactly 30 minutes, which is stupid if you want to save them, but hilarious if you want to give them false hope right up until the moment their dimension's entrance is destroyed. For Tuvok and Paris, it's going to take a couple of days for them to get beamed out, but they may not have that long as the marooned aliens are trying to attack and the shields may not hold for, well, days. They'll need to be within 2 meters of the distress signal transmitter when this beaming takes place, because that's what they're going to be locking onto. It's going to take a lot of precision to pull this off right. You don't want to wind up coming back looking like Reverse Flash or something. Things are bad down there. Nos nearly gets killed trying to keep the force field up, but Tuvok saves her, refusing to leave her behind. They all get beamed up just in the nick of time.
Welcome back. Who?
A friend.
That's the story we're all telling my wife, okay? But when the time comes for her to leave, Tuvok chooses to mind meld with Nos. It's a way of making her aware of what he feels towards her without trying to convey it outwardly. He conveys it with all of the nuance and complexities that would be involved in it. And good for him. Plus, he won't be in the doghouse over this either. The post-episode follow-up, stupid Neelix's moment is him getting a recipe for Spider, because after 2 months of having nothing else to eat, naturally, they'll be eager to try that again. We have a burn baby burn for the shuttle crashing on Gravity Planet. All scores are relative to their series. Final score for Gravity is 6 out of 10, above average for Voyager. It's a fine Tuvok episode, and the principal performers do a fine job with it, but the episode has a mixed message about Tuvok's behavior, that somehow he's both right and wrong to suppress his emotions. Rather than exploring his alien way of thinking, the episode once again views it through a very anthropomorphic perspective, continuing the unsettling trend of paying lip service to diversity without a willingness to tolerate different points of view. Tolerance doesn't mean putting up with things we agree with. It means understanding things that we disagree with. To be able to say, no, I don't understand this, but I respect your choice. No one seems to want to respect Tuvok's choice in this. Frankly, I'm a little bothered by the way the episode comes across because it feels like it's fully behind Tom Paris on this. And never mind the thing with Tuvok's wife. Whether or not you want to argue about fidelity at that point is immaterial to this discussion. What is important is the fact that this is Tuvok's culture and he has embraced it. I'm bothered at the idea of disparaging that because it doesn't match with what Tom Paris feels. I mean, in the end, Tom Paris is the one who has the last word on it. He's the one who says too bad, and that's the end of the discussion as far as the episode is concerned. This really bothers me because it is anathema to the very idea of what the Star Trek utopia is supposed to be. We come together because we all agree on everything, and there is no dissent. That's really an ugly message. That's not utopia. That sounds like a typical dystopia. That there's some force or brainwashing taking place to make everybody the same. Yet Star Trek frequently has this demonstration that nonconformity like that is something to look down upon. So yes, despite some strong performances, ultimately the episode is inadequate in exploring Tuvok's alien ways of thinking while simultaneously acting in a way suggestive that he shouldn't be feeling that way in the first place.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
I'm afraid.